Here was just kicking it around my man.
It's the sport of kings, better than diamond rings. Football,
Wildcats,
football,
Wildcats,
football,
Wildcats,
football,
I got it.
Wildcats,
football,
Wildcats,
football,
Wildcats,
football.
Welcome to the Married with Picks podcast, season 4, episode 17, week 17. Can you believe it's already week 17, Steve?
There's 2 weeks left.
This season really flew by.
Does seem like it went fast.
All right. So how'd you make out last week?
I did pretty good.
Did you?
Did really good.
Really?
Yeah. I don't have a record, but.
Well, I did not do very well. And I feel like overall, people didn't do very well. Like Vegas was not kind to people on Christmas. But all right. So moving on. Week 17, no teams on bye, obviously. And there is one Saturday game this week. I screwed things up last week. It is night game, Lions at Cowboys. Cowboys are favored by 4.5 points. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on this one first, because I'm kind of back and forth on this.
Well, I think that Dallas definitely wins the game.
Okay.
There's no doubt in my mind they win the game, and I'm like 90% sure that they're going to cover.
Okay.
The points seem like it's a little high, but I feel like, this is where Detroit just won on the road. They're going to come back to Dallas. I think Dallas is, a little bit of a tier above Detroit. And this is where we're going to really find out what Detroit's made of. Okay. I'll take the points. I'll give up the points with Dallas.
Okay. All right. So I guess my gut says the Cowboys, and I agree with you. I think they definitely win. Do they cover? I'm not necessarily confident. I don't know if the Cowboys defense can make Goff uncomfortable like I expected the Vikings defense to do last week, and that didn't pan out. Cowboys are better at home. They do have some injuries on their offensive line. Their nose tackle, Jonathan Hankins, is out, and Tyron Smith is questionable. Lions did secure the division last week. They can't get the conference, so they're pretty much locked in. Cowboys, I believe, are still in the race for the conference.
Yeah, they're still in the. Okay. Right now, they're in second place in the East division, but they still have a shot.
These teams did play in 2022. Cowboys won that game 24-6. So I'm going to go with you. I'm going to lay the points with the Cowboys. But a better play might just be the money line and put it in with something else, because there's lots of options that you can tease down this week. Okay, that's the next game. All right. So next game on my list is Dolphins at Ravens. Ravens are 3.5 point favorites, obviously coming off that big win on Monday night against San Francisco. This is going to be a short week for them traveling back from the West Coast. Interestingly enough, the Ravens have not fared well at home as a 3 or more point favorite. Dolphins have some injury concerns. They've already ruled Jalen Waddle out. Jalen Ramsey is questionable. They have a couple offensive linemen who are questionable. Raheem Mostert is questionable. It sounds like Tyreek Hill will play, and they'll have Tyron Armstead out there on the line.
I think Tyreek Hill is probably the most important one, right?
Well, I guess. I mean, to the extent, it would be nice if they had another receiving option now that Waddle is going to be out for sure.
They get Jeff Wilson Jr., right?
Well, he's a running back.
He's a weapon that they can use.
Ravens did, their safety Kyle Hamilton was injured in the San Fran game. He is questionable along with Zay Flowers. These teams did play, I think it was last year, early in the season. The Ravens went up. They were winning like 28-7 at halftime, and the Dolphins came back in that game and ultimately won like 38-35 or something along those lines. So I could see this being a bit of a back and forth. I am going to take the points with the Dolphins.
No, we're on the same page here. I like the Dolphins too. I just think coming off that 49ers, late game, they're on a short rest after a big physical matchup. I think they come. Miami, even though they're a little banged up and you don't have Waddle, in my mind, Hill's the most important one, right? Because he stretches out the defense, and then as long as you have somebody who's going to be able to at least catch the ball, should be able to work it in between the numbers.
Yeah, and I guess to the extent if Mostert doesn't play, I think Jeff Wilson can fill in that role, and they have
well, he'd be the
Achane.
backup, right? And Achane would be the starter. So, I mean, if you really like him, which he's put up some stellar numbers earlier in the season, but nothing too much recently. I think it's, again, a bad spot for Baltimore. I like Miami here.
Okay, same side of that one. All right, next game is the Patriots at the Bills. This is a division game. These teams played back in week 7. Patriots won that game 29-25. Patriots have a good run defense, and generally Bill Belichick will take away the other team's best player. I'm not really sure who that is in the Bills offense at this point. Stefon Diggs hasn't done much lately. I'm kind of surprised to see this line is, I don't know if did I say Bills are favored by 14. So I'm kind of surprised to see that the money and the bets are all on the Bills at that big number, given the fact that the Patriots won the earlier matchup this year. So I just think it's too many points in a division game, and I got to take the Patriots.
I mean, I love Buffalo to win the game, right? But obviously, it was a 14-point line. It's a pretty big spread. But I'm right on the same page with you. Just as much as you want to say this is a 30-3 game for Buffalo, the reality is these big favorites have not been covering lately.
Well, they didn't cover last week, that's for sure. None of them did.
And Buffalo struggled last week. They were on the road, but, that wasn't an easy game.
Against the Chargers, yeah.
And the Chargers pretty much, what? Chargers lose 6-0, or they beat the Patriots 6-0, right?
Yeah.
Like 3 weeks ago when New England played the New England played the Chargers.
I don't remember.
It was a 6-0 game.
That's right. Yeah. Bad weather, I think.
I think it was San Diego that won that one.
Yeah.
Or Las Vegas or Los Angeles, wherever the hell they play.
All right. So same side of that one, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'll take New England into points. I don't like it. I'm all on Buffalo to make a run here into the playoffs.
Definitely never feel good this year taking the Patriots, but
yeah,
it did pan out last week. So, all right, next game is the Falcons at the Bears. Bears are 3-point favorites. Falcons really took it to the Colts last week. I was kind of surprised at that. They do have a shot at the division. Bears are technically not eliminated from the playoff race, but they would need help to slip in there. I don't have a lot to say about this game. I would probably just take the points, but it's not a strong play for me.
It's Atlanta Bears.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to take Atlanta here. I think it's the Bears just shouldn't be, more than a 3-point favorite to anybody at this point. As much as I kind of like the little run they're going on over the last couple of games, with Justin Fields getting back, he looks pretty confident. I think this is a game where nobody really expects Atlanta to put up much of a fight, and they come in here and probably win by 3 or 4 points.
Okay. All right. Next game is the Titans at the Texans. Texans are favored by 4.5. This is a division game. These teams played 2 weeks ago. At that time, Case Keenum was starting for the Texans because CJ Stroud had the concussion. The Texans ultimately won that game 16-13 in overtime. I think there was some weather in that game. CJ Stroud will be back at quarterback this week. The Texans, the Colts, and Jacksonville are all 8-7 in the division. Texans are in third place due to tiebreakers. So they could definitely use the win in the division. When these teams played 2 weeks ago, the Texans defense really showed up. They totally shut down Derrick Henry. They sacked Will Levis 7 times in that game. Now, they do have a couple injuries on their defensive line, which could affect their performance there. But it's a weird number, and I believe Will Levis will be back at quarterback for the Titans, but I got to take the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, right there with you again. You got to take the Texans with CJ Stroud coming back. I'm looking for a big game from Nico Collins. It's tough to take Tennessee, who's 1-6 on the road this year, even though they'll be getting 4.5 points, it looks like. I think you got to take Houston here as they're lucky to get CJ Stroud back right at crunch time. You alluded to the fact that it's a logjam up here in the AFC South between those three teams. Jacksonville, who looked like they had a commanding lead in the division to go win that title at 8-3 just 4 games ago, and they lost 4 straight. Now are 8-7, tied with the Colts in Houston. So Houston desperately needs this game. Indy's got a winnable game coming up this week, and Jacksonville has Trevor Lawrence not playing. We'll get to that later, but I think on this game, you got to look for Houston to try to take their claim to the AFC South.
All right. Same side of that one. So next game is the Raiders at the Colts. Colts are 3.5-point favorites. Raiders will be coming in off their big win over the Chiefs. Their quarterback in that game did not throw a pass through the final 3 quarters of the game. Antonio Pierce has obviously been coaching these guys up, and he is coaching for the head coach position because, was it 2 years ago, they didn't hire the interim coach who the whole team liked. They went with Josh McDaniels. That didn't pan out so well. So he's definitely in consideration. And if he can keep piling up some wins, I think he definitely gets the job. I don't know exactly what happened to the Colts last week. It didn't seem like they could get anything going against the Falcons. I think the Raiders defense can do enough in this game. You could see it as kind of a letdown spot after the big win over the Chiefs, and now they have to travel to Indy. But I think given the situation with the coach, I have to take the points and take the Raiders. I feel like you're going to be on the opposite side of this one. I am
on the opposite side. I mean, so first of all, I love the money line here for Indy. I think there's no doubt that they win this game. I think they're going to catch Vegas in a bad spot, even though they've won 2 in a row and they've rallied behind their coach. I think this is where Indy is the one who I like to take the division lead, and really we'll look at it next week when hopefully they're tied with Houston at the top and Jacksonville's on the bottom, but we'll see what happens there, with these games this week. I like Indy. I'm going to take them actually with the 3.5, but I love the money line play. There's a couple of these teams I keep saying money line. I would parlay them together.
Okay. Next game is the Rams at the Giants. Rams are 5.5-point favorites. So Rams have been rolling since their bye week. They're 5-1, with their only loss being the overtime loss to the Ravens. The Giants will be starting Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. I do think he gives them a little bit of a bump. I hate to take McVay as this much of a favorite because I feel like he has a tendency to let teams back in the game. But I do think the Rams, with all their guys healthy, can win this. They can cover the 5.5. I would probably go money line and put it in with something else just to be safe.
Well, Tyrod Taylor finally gets the start here for the Giants after the Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets show is now over since he was benched at halftime against the Eagles last week. I think that the Giants use this as a spark. They've been playing well defensively lately. They've been playing well as a team offensively when they have the right person leading them. Tyrod Taylor seems to be the person that can make that offense go. So I'm going to take the points here. Again, I agree. I think the Rams just shouldn't be a 6.5-point favorite on the road.
All right. Different sides of that one. All right. So next game is the 49ers at the Commanders. This was at 12.5. I think it's all the way up to 14 at this point. So the 49ers will be coming in off their loss to the Ravens on Monday night, traveling east on a short week. Commanders have a really bad defense. So I think San Francisco definitely wins the game. Commanders will be starting Jacoby Brissett, who has shown some life in the games that he's come into, but none of them were against the 49ers defense. So I don't know how well he's going to do here. I'm not comfortable taking the 49ers as 14-point favorites. They will be without a couple of their offensive linemen, Eric Armstead and Jalen Moore. Trent Williams was a full participant at practice today. He left the Ravens game. And interestingly, the 49ers are 0-4 in games that he has either missed or didn't finish. So I would keep an eye on the injuries there. And I don't know, you got to outline that down somehow if you're going to play it, I think.
I mean, I'm going to take it the other way. I'd like Washington. I think you jump on the Jacoby Brissett bandwagon here. It's not like they're going to have a shot at winning the game, but I think they'll play it close enough at the end where they can backdoor a win here, getting 14 points. I'll take
Terry
Washington.
McLaurin.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Next game is the Panthers at the Jaguars. Jaguars were 6-point favorites. That line has moved down to 3.5 in light of the news that Trevor Lawrence will not play this game. It will be CJ Beathard starting. Like you mentioned earlier, the Jaguars have suffered 4 straight losses, and they are in a 3-way tie in the division at this point. Panthers came off a win, and then they had a close loss to Green Bay last week. They lost 30-33. So they obviously got some offense going in that game. I don't feel comfortable with CJ Beathard. I was going to take this if it was going to be Lawrence, but once they rolled him out, I don't really want anything to do with this game.
I kind of like it. I think that this maybe, Jacksonville knows, the rest of the players know that they're going to have to step up and play because they have no Trevor Lawrence. And sometimes you sit back there with the golden boy at quarterback and you wait for him to kind of take over and win the game. And that hasn't worked over the last 4 games, the last 4 weeks. So I think maybe, although I'm not trying to say that CJ Beathard is on the same level as Lawrence, I think that it's like when you put the backup goaltender in for a hockey game and then you get the defensemen start to play better because they know they can't give up a lot of shots or they're going to lose the game. I look at the same thing here. Jacksonville rallies behind the backup quarterback and Jacksonville wins this game and covers by a touchdown.
Okay. All right. Next game is the Cardinals at the Eagles. Eagles on my sheet are 11.5-point favorites. I think that might have gone up, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's 11.5. I thought I saw it go up earlier. It is at 12.
12. Okay. So this is going to be the second road game for the Cardinals. Cardinals, obviously, defense not very good, but the Eagles really haven't blown teams out. I mean, I definitely think the Eagles win. I wouldn't take them as 11.5-point favorites, though. They couldn't get that cover against the Giants last week. So I think you got to tease it down at least. What do you got?
I don't like the Eagles here giving up this many points to anybody, so I'm going to take the Cardinals. Okay. They don't deserve to be 12-point favorites against anybody the way they've been playing lately.
Yep, I agree. All right. Next game, Saints at the Bucks. Bucks are 2.5-point favorites. This is a division game. These teams played back in week 4. Bucks won that game 26-9. Tampa is 8-7 on the season. Saints 7-8. So this win will help whoever wins in the division race. Tampa Bay has actually won their last 4 games. Baker Mayfield has been playing pretty well. Everything that I've heard on the radio, etc., seems to suggest that this is the trap game of the week and that the Saints are the play. I sort of agree. So as much as it pains me, I think the Saints are the right side.
I'm surprised to hear you say that. I like the Saints as well. I mean, for no other reason than they're going to split the series. I think the Tampa Bay is coming off that big win last week. Everybody's overlooking them. And I think this is going to be the Derek Carr week. Like everybody's kind of frustrated with Derek Carr, thinking, a lot of people prognosticating in the beginning of the season that the Saints would do something or make a run to the playoffs, mostly because of Derek Carr and what he did with the Raiders in the past, right? But I think that, he struggled a little bit this year. He's been inconsistent at times. I think this is where he gets right on the cover 2 against Tampa. I'm going to take the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few games where the Saints have been out early and they've come back. So that might be what happens here, but we shall see.
Yep.
All right, next game is the Steelers at the Seahawks. Seahawks are 3.5-point favorites. So Mason Rudolph delivered for the Steelers last week. I just don't think he can do it again on the road in Seattle. So I don't really like that hook, but I got to go Seattle here. Steelers, Seahawks.
I think this is a tough one when I looked at it because I've been really liking Seattle, but they struggled last week, and I thought that's when they needed to really put it together. And
well, they definitely could have. I thought they were going to. I think that was the game we bet on last week.
Yeah,
and it was a push.
This is a tough one. I think I'm just going to leave this one alone.
Okay.
I want to take Pittsburgh here, but they tend to they go up a game and then they lose. Back and forth. They won't go under 500. but they're 8-7 right now, I believe. So this looks like it could be a loss, but 3 and a hook, probably the way Mason Rudolph had them playing.
Would you really think he can do it again?
Going on the road in Seattle, you wouldn't think so, but there's something off about that hook with it going up to 3.5. It screams 3-point game for Pittsburgh losing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if I had to take it, I think I would take Pittsburgh, but I'm going to probably leave it alone.
Okay. All right. Next game is the Bengals at the Chiefs. Chiefs are 6.5-point favorites. Both teams coming off losses last week. These teams have played 4 times in the last 2 years. 2 of those were playoff games. Bengals actually won 3 of the 4. Their only loss being in the AFC Championship game last year. They lost 20-23. Those games obviously were with Joe Burrow at quarterback. Chiefs just are not the Chiefs of old. Given the history here, Jake Browning, with the exception of last week, has played pretty well at quarterback for the Bengals. So I'm not saying the Bengals win outright, but I do think you have to take the points here.
I don't know. I think the league has figured out Browning, and I hate to say it, but I'm looking at Kansas City to cover this thing, especially if it's at 6.5 and you're getting a full touchdown will win or cover. Mm-hmm. I'm leaning towards going Kansas City here, but it's such a tough game because they really have not looked like themselves lately.
And what is their record on the season? Like 9-6?
Yeah.
Like when I saw that, I was like shocked.
It's 9-6. And then, you look who's right behind them. It's the Raiders who, I'm thinking that they're going to lose this week. And Denver looks like they're giving up on the season, or at least giving up on Russell Wilson. So, they're not really getting a lot of pressure from behind to, go clinch this thing. So who knows? It could be a tough one, but I'm going to take Kansas City. Is Chase playing this week?
It sounded like he was, but I'm not 100%.
Yeah, see, that's an even bigger, mystery. That's the difference from last week, I think, against Pittsburgh, is Chase is that much of a difference maker now with Burrow out.
Yeah, well,
so
and
he
takes the pressure off the other receivers.
Yeah, if Chase plays, and it could change my mind by the time we get to Sunday, but if he doesn't play, I think I definitely would take Kansas City, and most likely try to take Kansas City regardless.
Okay. All right. Next game is the Chargers at the Broncos. Broncos are 3.5-point favorites. This is a division game. These teams played in week 14. That was the game where Herbert got hurt and Easton Stick came in. Broncos did win that game. I don't have the score written down, but it was 20-something to 6. Broncos have benched Russell Wilson. It will be Jarrett Stidham starting at quarterback. I believe he played a couple games for the Raiders last year. So we basically have Stidham versus Stick. I don't know what to expect. So I would just have to take the points, but it's not a strong play for me.
Yeah, this is almost the adage. This is not almost the adage. This is exactly the game that fits the adage. 2 bad teams take the points, right?
Yeah, especially with the hook there.
Yeah, in that situation, you're going to get an extra hook. And Jarrett Stidham doesn't necessarily breed a lot of confidence in a pick from Denver. But I'm going to actually take Stidham here for one reason only. And it's the fact that you see the phenomenon sometimes when like a coach gets fired. Like take the Raiders, for instance, and the coach gets fired and it's almost like a breath of fresh air, like a sigh of relief in the locker room. And the players are really loose and they go out and they play really well and they win the game. That could also happen with the quarterback, right?
Yeah, I can see that because I don't think they don't really like. Sean Payton does not like Russell Wilson. And I don't know that the team does. So
I believe Sean Payton doesn't like Russell Wilson because of the same reasons that nobody else likes him on the team. But B, like if he was winning or the rest of the team liked him, he would put up with it and deal with it. He just wants to win, but he doesn't like losing. He's coming in here like a prima donna. The stories have not gone away that we heard last year, how he had his own office up in the building and it was almost like he couldn't talk to Russ and he was above everybody else. And nobody likes to play on a team where the leader is above everybody else and doesn't want to talk. So anyway, my point is that this is going to be a breath of fresh air for the Denver Broncos, the rest of the people that are in that locker room. And I think that they're going to rally behind Jarrett Stidham and get a win against San Diego.
All right, I
Jordan
kind of like
Chargers.
you're kind of talking me into the Broncos. I think I might just have to leave this one alone.
All right.
All right, and then the final game of the week is the Sunday night game. There is no Monday night game this week, and it is the Packers at the Vikings. Vikings are 1.5-point favorites. This is a division game. These teams played back in week 8. The Vikings won that matchup 24-10. They, at the time, obviously had Kirk Cousins at quarterback. They've gone through their carousel, and they're landing back on Jaron Hall for this game. I almost would like to see them give Josh Dobbs another chance. I don't know what to make of Jaron Hall. TJ Hawkinson is out for the season. Addison will be questionable going into this game. On the other side, Christian Watson is doubtful for the Packers. And Jair Alexander, their best cornerback, got himself suspended by the team for running out to take the coin toss when he wasn't supposed to last week. I got to go with the Vikings on this one because I think I'm basically going to take the approach I took last week that Brian Flores and his defense can do enough to confuse Jordan Love. And I always, with these primetime games, want to know where the money's going, and I was pleasantly surprised to see it going on Green Bay, so I will be going on the Vikings.
I'm right there with you. I definitely love the money line. I think Minnesota wins, but it's just about a pick here anyway. So I would take Minnesota. I think everybody's on Green Bay. They won on the road last week. I look for them to not go on the road this week and beat Minnesota. Take the Vikings.
All right, that'll do it for us for week 17. If you're watching, please like, subscribe, feel free to comment, and we will be back one more time for week 18.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Peace out.
Wildcats.